operation there that would suggest it would be divers in the water there. The other good thing is we still have the tugboats that are here at the location to assist in case they have an issue with the container ship. So we're still trying to get more. Unless you had any other questions, we're going to send it back to you in the studio.
All right, Roy, thank you. Oh, just to look at that bridge, built in 1977, just had a birthday, so to speak, this weekend. 47 years old, took 5 years to build, and here we are looking at that image of it just being gone.
So much history, crumbling into the water.
who come through the Port of Baltimore every day. That's what they do. So this is the director, his group on Sunday, and then yesterday, between him, the director, and a volunteer had helped 8 different people on board the ship, including the captain, go out and shop, get things they needed before they were stuck at sea for 28 days. A volunteer took, he said, 5 or 6 crew members. He himself yesterday drove the captain and another crew member who he had been texting with. He said he was told there were 22 people on board, and that when the instant he heard the name of the ship and he realized, oh my gosh, this is the one we were just with, took him grocery shopping, he immediately texted the crew member and again said, is everyone safe and okay? And he said the crew member texted back, very short, very simple, everyone is safe, everyone's okay. And he said, keep in touch, let me know what you need. So that's according to him. And this is what he does for work. They know how many people are on board. He talked about delivering stuff for Easter to the crew as well. So it's not an official count of the people on board, but sure, it's a count that we have no reason not to believe.
Sure.
All right.
Wow.
Great work, Kate. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
President Biden says he intends to have the federal government foot the entire bill of rebuilding the Key Bridge. And just minutes ago, Vice President Harris issued her message to Maryland.
Before I begin, I will say a few words on the terrible accident in Baltimore this morning. I know we are all praying for the families of those who are missing and all of those who have been touched by this tragedy. I spoke with the governor of Maryland this morning, and we have directed the federal government to use all the resources that are available to assist with the search and rescue, to reopen the port, and to rebuild the bridge as quickly as possible. And of course, I know we all will stand and continue to stand with the people of Maryland.
From WBAL TV 11, this is breaking news.
And what a day it's been here in Baltimore. Been keeping an eye on the Key Bridge throughout the day. The scene there hasn't changed much, but the details have.
And when it comes to these press conferences, you know, Governor Moore speaking, the mayor, even like I said, the president. Let's take a listen first to what the governor was saying, you know, speaking with the first responders. Take a listen.
everybody has stepped up. Everybody has raised their hands to serve. And I can tell you, it is so deeply appreciated. It's so deeply felt. And for everyone who is offering prayers and supports, I can tell you those prayers are working.
The NTSB then telling us about, this focus is on the search and rescue. Throughout, we've had several press conferences here in Dundalk at the staging area, and each press conference we've asked about what comes next, and they've said, our focus is on the search and rescue. Take a listen to what NTSB, the leaders in this investigation, what they're telling us today.
What's the priority beyond the search and rescue? We don't, certainly investigations are a priority. Certainly environmental considerations are a priority. And so is traffic and getting, cargo vessels in and out of the port of Baltimore. It's not the NTSB's priority. We have a number of organizations, including the Department of Transportation, Maryland Department of Transportation, the governor, that's doing a lot of work on that. But this is right now, it's about people. It's about families and addressing the needs of those that were impacted. That's the focus. I don't think anybody in that room right now at the command post is thinking about what are the next steps to get things cleaned up. They're working to figure out who was impacted, if anyone was impacted, and how do we address that, because that is and should be the priority always.
Governor Moore says that he's been speaking with those families of those involved. Again, the number we've been hearing all day, NTSB is not confirming, but local officials have confirmed 8 individuals involved here. 2 rescued. 1 did not want to get medical attention. The other individual was taken to shock trauma, and we've heard has since been released. That means that they're looking confirmed for 6 people in this incident, at least. Again, waiting to hear about anyone driving on that bridge at the time. The governor says that authorities were able to stop some drivers who were about to go on the bridge. But other than that, we haven't been told if anyone was in fact driving, if any cars went into the water. And that is why there are still helicopters overhead, divers in the water working on this investigation. This is going to be a long process, guys. So we've been hearing from all these different officials as they work together to get out the pertinent information here, especially the search and rescue. That is the big point right now. But I'm sure, in the coming hours, even that is going to change. So I'm going to keep speaking with the Coast Guard. I have had a couple phone call conversations with them, and I'll keep you guys updated. But for now, back to you.
All right, Tommy, thank you. The video still gets me is when you see the ship and lights go off, lights come back on, the black smoke. I mean, it's just odd to watch all this sort of play out right in front of you.
And it's so fast too.
Yeah.
From 1 second, you see the ship, like Tolly was showing us through that video.
Right,
the smoke is there, and then it literally falls within seconds.
Yeah.
So it's just incredible.
Yeah. And we mentioned here a little bit about divers with Tommy, and that's a big part of all of this.
Huge. Yeah, the search and rescue teams, they've been going through the water to try and find the missing crew members. Andre Hepkins joining us now from the 11 News Live Desk with those efforts ongoing right now. Andre.
And Jason and Ashley, our own Brianna Ross is actually volunteering with her church to help feed those first responders and divers. Take a look at this video that she shot from the scene. According to Baltimore City Fire spokesperson Kevin Cartwright, at least 50 divers are on the scene. They are from the Anne Arundel County Fire Department, the Prince George's County Fire Department, as well as other local volunteer companies. State Police Trooper dive teams are also on the scene, and we're looking at this video right now. According to Kevin Cartwright, the teams are using side scan sonar and infrared technology to locate and identify the vehicles that fell when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed into the Patapsco River. And if these dive teams find anyone inside these vehicles, they will secure the cars with a buoy. Already, we're told they've identified a truck that's in 2 parts, and they believe there are others.
how can one prepare and drill for the image that we have all seen play over and over and over again since early this morning? It's really extraordinary. I know we've been discussing this all day, that no matter how many times you see it, we're still incredulous that this iconic bridge named after Francis Scott Key, that this iconic bridge would topple in seconds before our very eyes. So many questions still to be asked, to be answered, and certainly that individual who was sent to shock trauma in the wee hours of the morning and who is now home has an extraordinary story to tell of survival and of trauma. And we certainly wish them well in their continuing their recovery. I just cannot imagine the story that individual has to tell, guys.
I mean, it's just like the story of the neighbor that you had earlier. You don't think about it, but you say, listen, the life of Baltimore runs through Dundalk. You don't think about it until this, and you understand everything. What did Kate say? Everything from toilet paper to cars comes through that terminal.
It is, and not only for us, but really for the entire country. I mean, it is one of the biggest ports. So big impacts all over the place. Deb, thank you. 11 News reporter Kate Amara joins us live now as well. And Kate, there's a mass tonight for the people involved in the collapse. What can you tell us about that?
That's exactly right. It's at 5:30. It's at the Cathedral of Mary Our Queen. It's praying for all those who've been impacted by this accident. And I'll tell you, somebody who is probably thrilled to hear that one of the two people rescued has been released from shock trauma is Jesus Campos. And that explains why we haven't seen him around here. He kind of disappeared about an hour ago. I went to look for him to ask him some follow-up questions. He is the man that we've been speaking to today who works for Bronner Builders, the company that was contracted to have the work crew on the bridge today. He's been distraught. He said that it was a 7-member crew. The one member that was rescued, he said, was in critical condition at the hospital, the last he knew. And he said the families of the other 6 of his friends, co-workers, and he called them family members at this point, their families were just sitting at home, he said, waiting for the call. He is the one who gave us a lot of the details about this crew that was doing road work, pothole work, according to state officials. He said it's a job he's done before for the company. He believes their shift was 9 p.m. to 5 a.m., that they shut down parts of the roadway across the Key Bridge at 9 last night so that this work could take place, and that this crew of 7 was supposed to be, sorry, that's windy back here, was supposed to be on until 5 o'clock in the morning. He told us at the time of the collapse, they were on a 30-minute break, which is standard. It's how they operate. And that what they do on a break is they take their breaks in their cars. Pickup trucks, actually, he said there would have been 4 of them, and that his friends and co-workers would have been in their cars. Some eat something, drink a little bit of water or something. Some close their eyes. He said it's very hard, strenuous work. And he said Jesus and his other colleagues who were not working on this shift are just beside themselves. They know how dangerous and precarious it can feel to be that high up on that bridge that he said feels like it's moving up and down all the time. But then he said they just can't imagine what it was like to be on that bridge. So we did speak to him, and through an interpreter. He was very gracious. He was very emotional as well. But we want to share a little bit with you of what Jesus Campos told us today.
Me siento mal por lo que está sucediendo.
I am so bad. I feel so bad right now that this has happened. Mr. Campos told us 3 of the men were from Mexico and were related to each other. He said 2 were from Guatemala, the rest from Honduras and El Salvador. We asked him, what do you want people to know about your friends and about what happened?
No, pues eran buenas personas y somos buenas personas.
They were good people. They were good workers, he said. They were working so that they could send money home to their countries.
Sí, pues demasiado, pues porque tenemos familias que los esperan en casa.
It's too much to bear right now because all the families are waiting at home for the phone calls. And you can't help, or I couldn't help but make the connection between the crew members on this road crew who were working on the bridge, and according to the Apostleship of the Seas director, the 22 seafarers who were on board the container ship. All of them, according to the people who knew them and talked to them, were doing it for their families so that they could send money back home to have a better life. And Director Middleton of the Apostleship of the Sea said for the folks on the container ship, for those seamen, oftentimes that's the only way. They sign up for 8-9 month stints away from their families. That's the contract, and they do it because that's the way that they earn money for their families, so their families can have a better life. It's just very interesting that especially this bridge that's and this place that's about the port and working people, is also the people that were directly involved and impacted by this are people who are just working. They're just working their jobs. So Mr. Campos said he's hoping and praying for the families and for his friends who remain unaccounted for. I will say, we have noticed a lot of equipment coming in and out. It could be a shift change, which happens. It's after 5 o'clock, but we have seen a couple of ambulances go in down to Hawkins Point in the last hour. Who knows if they just needed some people on standby, but that is something that we have seen. We've seen some people come out, some people go in, and that's one of the kinds of vehicles that we saw go.
or have you moved again?
No, we're at Riviera Beach still here to give you kind of a better perspective on the crash site and what it looks like. We got a higher vantage point here, and if you see behind me, you can see out there where the two side parts of the bridge are still intact. Those are the concrete parts, but the entire middle is just gone. And you can see in the water there where the bridge is sticking up and even laying on top of that cargo ship that hit the bridge around 1:30 this morning. So you can see that, basically the bridge is gone. There are two ramps up to nothing now. That steel is sticking out of the water, and they're keeping boats back a certain distance away from the crash site as those search teams and dive teams go down to try to get these folks out of the wreckage down there. But folks who lived in the area, we've been talking to them basically all day. A lot of them heard a loud bang around 1:30. Some of them didn't hear anything at all and didn't hear about it until people started calling and emailing them and texting them early this morning saying, hey, did you see what happened to the bridge? The key bridge is no more. It's gone. And a lot of them didn't even believe it. They were just such in shock. And so they came out to where we were a little earlier this morning to look at the bridge, or what is left of the bridge, to see for themselves, because they just can't believe that this happened. I think there's just a feeling of shock and awe as people hear about it and see it and just can't believe that this happened. But we did speak to a couple of residents who were nearby, and here's what they had to say.
My fiance woke up about that 1:30-ish time frame. He said he heard a loud bang, didn't think much of it, went back to bed. Woke up a couple hours later, I imagine, to the noise of all the helicopters and just the noises that were going around outside. Picked up his phone to kind of see what was going on, saw what happened, woke me up. Of course, we ran out here, took a quick look, and have been following it ever since.
We got up, came here. I guess a lot of neighbors heard what sounded like an explosion, but obviously it wasn't. So we came here, and there was a couple people checking everything out. So we're hoping everyone's okay.
Now, we also had the opportunity to speak to a couple of port workers who came out to look at the wreckage. One of them said her husband was at the port today, and she said it's as quiet as it's ever been there, of course, with ships not being able to get in or out. She also said, there's just another way that this is going to affect everyone in this area, that her whole family works at the port. So they don't get paid if the ships don't come in. So if there are ships that aren't able to get in and out for days, weeks, months, that's really going to affect them and affect their lifeline and their livelihood. A lot of households around here are dependent on the ports to make their living. And again, if those ships can't get in, they can't get paid. So that's just one other effect of this. In addition to the transportation, of course, folks are going to have to find another way to get around. They can't use that bridge anymore. So 95, 895, even the west side of the Beltway are probably going to be a lot more crowded from now on until this bridge is eventually fixed, as folks try to find those alternate routes to get around. So, the main concern, of course, of people is those folks who are still unaccounted for in the water that those divers are searching for. But once the search and rescue effort is over, there's a number of issues down the road that everyone in this area is going to face. So that's the very latest here in Riviera Beach. I'm Kim Dacey, WBAL TV 11 News.
Right, and as we know from the morning show, when we work together, you spent some time doing some traffic. So Baltimore Beltway in the morning, it doesn't matter what side or that top side, it's a mess. And I'm guessing added volume, and then you have that construction up there by Pikesville. I mean, this is going to be felt around the loop.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Beltway is always a mess.